His steps came to an abrupt halt. Andrés, accustomed to investor meetings, red carpets, and five-star hotels, felt something strange in his chest as he watched the little girl with messy braids and a torn backpack selling candy on the street. It wasn't her dirty clothes or her shy gaze that froze him. It was the mark above her left eyebrow, a scar, identical to the one Lucia had. He felt his throat tighten, and the wine glass in his hand trembled. He was sitting on the terrace of a luxury restaurant in Valle de Bravo, where he had come for business. But business was no longer on his mind, only that scar. He saw her slowly walk away between cars and street stalls. He didn't know why, but he stood up. He followed her, keeping his distance, hidden among tourists and vendors. The girl moved with the precision of someone used to dodging chaos. Her stride was determined, but her broken sandals made her stumble. She carried a bag of vegetables, far too heavy for her size. She bore it with strength, with dignity. Andrés couldn't stop looking. That scar, that way of moving, that face. He stopped behind a tree when the girl turned onto a dirt road. He saw her arrive at a house barely standing. Rusty roofs, mud walls, a curtain for a door. Andrés' heart pounded as if it would burst out of his chest. Then he heard a voice from inside. "Sophia, are you back? Give the vegetables to your mother." Andrés felt a jolt down his spine. That voice, that tone. It was impossible to mistake it. It was Lucia. She came to the doorway, thinner, more tired, but undoubtedly her. The basket in her hands fell to the ground the moment their eyes met. Vegetables scattered into the dust. "What are you doing here?" Lucia asked, her voice trembling. Andrés didn't answer. He just took a step forward, time compressed in his mind. Youth, arguments, the goodbye without a real farewell. And now, this. Inside the house, a middle-aged man was mending fishing nets. A boy of about 5 ran to Lucia and hugged her. Sophia approached, staring intently at Andrés. Light-colored eyes, far too familiar. Andrés swallowed hard. The air smelled of firewood and dampness, of poverty, and something else, of home. Lucia, still trembling, invited him inside. She set water to boil. The place was clean, though humble. They sat across from each other at a wobbly table. Silence. "The girl, the scar," Andrés said hoarsely. "She looks like you? Is she your daughter?" Lucia hesitated. "She's my daughter, and my husband's." Andrés said nothing, but his eyes were clear. He didn't believe a word. He began telling her about his life. Wealth, success, a wife who didn't love him, a house full of emptiness. "And today, when I saw her, I thought of you." Lucia gripped the cup in her hands. "You chose to leave. I built this with what I had. I have no regrets." Andrés watched the children playing with stones in the yard. He remembered his apartment overlooking Chapultepec. He remembered the silences with Renata. Here, there was noise. Here, there was life. Lucia spoke without resentment. "After the divorce, I came back here. I met Tomas. We got married. Life is hard, but I have what I need." Andrés lowered his gaze. "And the scar? Lucia. That mark isn't a coincidence. You were pregnant when you left." Lucia stiffened. She didn't answer. He didn't push. But the seed was already planted. That night, Andrés didn't return to the hotel. He rented a room in the village. He didn't know why. He only knew he couldn't leave. If this story hooked you from the very start, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. What's coming next will break your heart. The room was small, with a wooden bed that creaked at the slightest movement. Andrés couldn't sleep. In his mind swirled Sophia's eyes, that scar, and Lucia's trembling voice. He remembered something else. Weeks before the divorce, she had confessed she was pregnant. Then came a phone call, crying. "I lost it," she said. But now everything was different. The next morning, Andrés walked to Lucia's house with a bag of fruit, milk, and some sweets. He wanted to get closer. Sophia opened the door and, upon seeing him, ran inside. Lucia came out, her expression tense. "Don't do this. We don't need your help." "It's not pity. I just want to get to know her." Before she could answer, Tomas appeared behind her, thin, sun-darkened, with a fishing net over his shoulder. "Lucia, accept it. There's nothing wrong with someone bringing something good." Andrés looked at him. There was no hatred in his voice, only weariness. Lucia relented, and Andrés stepped inside. Sophia watched him from a corner, a mix of distrust and curiosity in her eyes. "What do you like to do?" he asked her. "Go to school, but when it rains, I can't go." Andrés felt a blow to his chest. He thought of the city kids, their bodyguards, their brand new backpacks, and Sophia, barefoot, crossing through mud. He looked at Tomás. "Can you support them with fishing?" Tomás shook his head. "Lately there are no fish. I come back empty-handed." Then Tomás said something Andrés didn't expect. "When Lucia was pregnant, we were already together. I knew Sophia wasn't mine. I didn't ask. I just wanted to be there." Andrés stared at him, incredulous. Lucia avoided his gaze. "Is that true?" he whispered. She didn't answer. That afternoon, Andrés walked to the lake's edge. The water was still. He remembered signing the divorce papers. He wanted to grow, and she didn't stop him. He thought it was the right thing to do. Today, he wasn't so sure. He decided to seek answers. He visited Doña Carmen, an old woman who lived on the edge of the village. "Sophia?" "Yes, of course I know her. Lucia arrived pregnant, never said who the father was. But I saw her cry after giving birth. She cried for someone who had left her." Andrés swallowed hard. "Are you sure? Who else would cry like that for a ghost?" He couldn't bear the uncertainty any longer. He called a doctor friend in the city. "I need a DNA test, in secret." He took a lock of Sophia's hair while she slept in a chair. He sent it along with his own sample. 3 days passed, days of rain, silence, and nerves. He didn't pressure Lucia again. He just watched. Sophia smiled at him sometimes. That was enough. On the morning of the 4th day, an envelope arrived. He opened it with trembling hands. Probability of biological relationship, 99.5%. Andrés collapsed into a chair. Sophia was his daughter. 10 years without knowing, 10 years of silence, of unspoken words. He stood up and walked to the house. Lucia was folding clothes. Tomás wasn't there. Sophia was reading a book. Andrés placed the papers on the table. "Explain this to me." Lucia read them and turned pale. How could you? I tried to tell you," she said through tears. "You were in a hurry to leave. You said you didn't want burdens. I thought if I told you, you'd stay out of duty, not love. Tomás knew from the beginning. He accepted me. We married. We raised Sophia together. I didn't want you to come back and destroy that." Andrés lowered his head. "You shut me out. You stole 10 years from me. And you left me when I needed you most." At that moment, the sound of an engine interrupted them. A luxury car stopped in front of the house. Renata stepped out, immaculate, her heels splattered with mud. "So, this is where you are?" Andrés went pale. "Renata, don't..." She looked at Lucia, then at Sophia. "Your ex, your illegitimate daughter. How nice. Are you going to stay here playing farmer?" Andrés pulled her outside. "This is none of your business." "Isn't it? What about the company, the contracts?" "Me?" Andrés didn't answer. Renata didn't raise her voice again. She simply said, "If you stay, you lose everything." Andrés didn't answer. The threat was clear. If he stayed, he would lose not just his fortune, but the empire he had built over 20 years. Renata knew it. That's why she had come in person. But when he looked through the window and saw Sophia laughing with her little brother, something inside him broke. "Do whatever you want," he said without looking at her. "I'm not leaving her again." Renata said nothing. She got into the car, and before closing the door, she added, "Don't blame her. You're the one afraid of living without your millions." The car disappeared in a cloud of dust. Andrés went back inside. Lucia was silent. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. "What I should have done years ago. But the days that followed weren't so simple." Tomás came back from the lake with a gray face. He had fallen into the water while trying to pull up a net. Fever shook him. Lucia cried in the kitchen. Andrés ran for help, drove Tomás in his truck to the nearest clinic, paid for everything, and waited for hours. When the doctor finally came out, he said, "If you hadn't brought him, he would have died." His lung collapsed. Andrés exhaled in relief. "And will he be okay?" "With rest and treatment, yes." Back in the village, Lucia could hardly believe it. "Why did you do all this?" "Because he took care of my daughter when I wasn't here. Tomas, more lucid now, looked at him from the cot. Now I do believe you're her father, and I don't hate you. But you need to understand, this isn't your home. Andrés nodded. I didn't come to take her from you. I just want to be close. In the days that followed, Lucia and Andrés shared long silences, short walks, and talks by the fire. Sophia clung to him, telling him everything, what books she liked, the games she invented with Ivan, how much she wanted a bicycle. One afternoon, as they played in the yard, Andrés asked Lucia, "Did you and Tomas have more children?" She shook her head. "Sophia was the only one I carried. I said Ivan was ours, but we adopted him. He was abandoned at the village church. I couldn't leave him," Tomas insisted. Andrés looked at the boy more closely. There was no resemblance, but that didn't matter. It was clear they loved him with all their hearts. That night, on the porch, Lucia told him the truth. "When I found out I was pregnant, I looked for you. Your secretary said you were in New York, closing a deal. Then again, in Paris. No one ever put my calls through. Then I read in the papers that you were engaged to Renata." Andrés felt dizzy. "I never knew. No one ever told me you called. I thought you didn't want to know, so I left. And with Tomas, I found something you never gave me. Peace." Andrés understood. He had come too late, but he was here now, and he wasn't leaving. A week later, Renata called. "I've given up half my shares. I've transferred the rest to you. I don't want to live with a man who loves someone else." Andrés didn't know what to say. "Are you sure?" "Yes. Consider it a gift. For what we once were." And she hung up. The next day he brought a brand new bicycle for Sophia. The girl squealed with joy. Tomas smiled from his wheelchair. Lucia watched silently. "It cost you a lot, didn't it?" "Not the bicycle, deciding to stay, betting on another life." Lucia stepped closer, slowly. "I don't know if I still love you, Andrés, but you're her father, and you deserve to be part of this." Andrés looked up at the starry sky. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about money or power, only about being there, in that moment, and never letting it end. The days passed peacefully, wrapped in a simple routine. Andrés, who, in his other life, wore tailored suits and flew on private jets, now cleaned tools, repaired fences, and read bedtime stories. Sophia looked at him like he was a hero, and Ivan had grown so fond of him that he now called him Uncle Andrés. But the unspoken tension didn't take long to resurface. One afternoon, while Andrés was helping carry sacks of corn, Tomas called him from the porch. "We need to talk," he said. Andrés set the sack down and came over. Tomas wasn't angry, but his voice was firm. "Look, Andrés, I know you've done a lot for us. You saved my life. You've brought joy to Sophia. But you and I both know this isn't your home." "I know," Andrés replied, "but I can't walk away again." Tomas nodded. "I don't want Sophia to get confused. I don't want her thinking she has two fathers under the same roof. That wouldn't be fair to her." Andrés lowered his gaze. "You're right. If you leave, you'll be doing me a favor. If you stay, I need you to keep your distance. Find your own space." That night, Andrés didn't sleep. The next day he spoke with Lucia. "I'm going to find a small house near the village. I want to stay close to you, but without interfering." Lucia didn't argue. "Thank you. Tomas isn't perfect, but he's been a good father. I don't want Sophia to see him less because you're around." A week later, Andrés moved into an old cabin, 15 minutes away on foot. He still went to the market with Sophia, repaired bicycles, and brought them fresh bread on Sundays. He was part of their lives, but from the sidelines, and strangely, that gave him peace, until a figure from the past returned to break into the present. Renata showed up one morning, without heels, without makeup. She wore a scarf over her head and deep shadows under her eyes. "I just came to say goodbye," she said. "Are you leaving the country?" Andrés asked, puzzled. "I'm leaving this life. I was diagnosed with leukemia 2 months ago. It's aggressive. There's not much to be done." Andrés felt the world crumble. Renata had been many things. An ambitious wife, a business partner, someone with whom he had shared an entire decade. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you finally had what you always wanted, a real family. I didn't fit there anymore." Lucia appeared at that moment. They greeted each other with just a glance. No words, only a silent respect, between two women who had shared the same man in different times. Renata handed Andrés an envelope. Here are the final papers for the company. It's all yours. I don't want to hold on to anything anymore. And what will you do? I'm going to spend my last months near the sea. Maybe write something. Maybe just watch the horizon. Before leaving, she looked at Sophia, who was playing with a kite near the river. Take care of her, and take care of yourself. You're a better man here than in any glass tower. And then she left. That night, Andrés sat by the window of his cabin and wrote in his notebook, "We are not what we build, but what we care for. Wealth is measured in people, not in numbers." Lucia stopped by silently. She left him a plate of rice with chicken and a note. "You're part of this too. Even if you're on the sidelines, you're in the heart." And for the first time in many years, Andrés cried, not out of guilt, not out of frustration, but out of gratitude. 3 months passed since Renata's last visit. Andrés received letters from the coast, handwritten, full of nostalgia and peace. They spoke of seas that seemed infinite, of quiet nights, and of memories that no longer hurt. The last letter arrived in April. It was short. It simply said, "Thank you for letting me go in peace. I'm not afraid anymore." A week later, Andrés got the call. Renata had passed away in her sleep, painlessly in the early morning. Her last wish was simple, that her ashes be scattered in the sea and that no fuss be made about her. Andrés remained silent for days. Lucia brought him food, but they spoke little. Sophia hugged him tightly and said, "Don't be sad." She left happy. But he knew his sadness wasn't only for Renata. It was for everything he had lost along the way, for the choices, the absences, the silences. He felt he needed to do something more, something final. One morning, Andrés met with a notary in town. He signed documents, he transferred properties, he sold his share in one of his companies and donated most of the money to the local community center. He arranged for Sophia to have access to the best possible education, and for Tomás and Lucia to live without financial worries. No one knew at first. Everything was done quietly, like a farewell without words. Then he wrote a letter. He left it in the cabin. It read, "I had everything, then I lost it, and now I have it again, even if it doesn't belong to me. Lucia, thank you for showing me that true love isn't always the one we choose, but the one we cannot leave behind. Tomás, thank you for taking care of what I abandoned. Sophia, you are the purest light I've ever known. I can't stay, but I'm not leaving completely. I'm in every corner of this place. Don't look for my name. Don't mourn me. Just live." One dawn, without making a sound, Andrés left. He walked along the shore of the lake, carrying a backpack and his notebook. No one saw him get on the bus. No one knew where he went. Lucia found the letter days later. She cried in silence. Tomás lowered his gaze. They said nothing in front of the children. Since then, every year, on the anniversary of that departure, Sophia sets a small paper boat afloat on the lake. Each time, she writes something different. "I miss you. Today I learned to ride my bike without falling. Dad, I hope you can see what I'm achieving." And the water carries it away, as if Andrés could read it from wherever he was. Because some goodbyes are not the end. They're just another way of staying. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. And now I ask you, what would you have done if you were Andrés? Would you have stayed to fight for your place, or would you have left like he did? Share your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you.